The military-industrial complex that Dwight Eisenhower warned about, this derived from the work of sociologist C. Wright Mills, who said that the powers that be in the United States were so intertwined, politically, militarily, and big business, that the elites were basically interchangeable there. You could take the top man in the government and put him in, have him run a big company or work with the military as the defense secretary, for example. So these people are interchangeable at the top, and that it's really giving the US kind of a top-down oligarchy. That's what C. Wright Mills wrote in The Power Elite in 1956. He also wrote that permanent war was essentially their solution to solving all the economic problems that arose after the war. And this was more true than Mills could have known. This is really important to understand the military-industrial complex. It's not so much that the military-industrial complex just runs everything. The military-industrial complex was created by people similar to the same people who planned the US empire after the war, and for similar reasons. They needed to have a way to deal with this dollar gap issue, the fact that Western Europe could not earn enough dollars to participate in the dollar-denominated capitalist system that the US created and needed to run its empire. And so it became necessary to have a huge military establishment, and that entailed depicting the Soviets as boogeymen bent on world domination who were posing the greatest threat possible to the American way of life and to freedom and everything good. It required an enemy, a permanent enemy, so that you could create what C. Wright Mills called the privately incorporated permanent war economy, meaning that it is privately incorporated, obviously, it's exactly what it says. It's big business and a permanent war economy, an economy based on massive military spending for war, whether it comes or not. I mean, the amount of armaments the US produced is crazy. It's still crazy today. You can hear politicians recently, it's horrifying, saying that the money that we're spending in Ukraine, it's all coming back to us because it's there to go to factories in Ohio to build bombs and such. I mean, it's quite sick that they would brag about that, because a lot of these things could be done in the US. If you want to have a government spending program, you could have a government spending program on infrastructure, building hospitals, schools, electric grids. The US could have public works, instead of just pointless bombs for killing people, and a lot of them don't even get used. You could have a really wonderful society here, but that would not be really in the oligarchs' interest, because they actually want to maintain their power. So instead, the sort of permanent public works program gets tied to the global dominance program. That was more suitable for the people running things, and it kept the system humming. It kept the dollars flowing where they were supposed to go. So the military-industrial complex becomes not just a problem of arms makers making a lot of money, it's that it is essential to making the entire capitalist system work like it's supposed to. So it is almost sacrosanct for these elites that planned all of these things, but I don't believe that Kennedy really likes the status quo here, and I don't know that Kennedy or anyone else totally understood at the time the real nature of the way that this was operating and the peril that you would be in if you were to try to trifle with it in any way. They went about it as though they were responsible statesmen trying to manage the finances of a country and looking at what you didn't need to spend as much money on, and military spending is an obvious thing and you don't need foreign wars. But other people did want these foreign wars. They actually appreciated the fact that it was causing a whole lot of money to be spent in wasteful ways, because what's wasteful in the public's eyes would be not wasteful to somebody who makes millions and millions of dollars on military contracts. So this becomes a source of power, and it needs to be fed, this military beast, and they look for countries to fight. Kennedy had to resist fighting wars in Cuba, Berlin, Laos, and Vietnam, and he never would put in ground troops as they wanted. So this whole militarized economy is important to understand, but the bigger thing to get out of it that I think is often overlooked, people want to just say the war machine or the military machine is the boogeyman. It was created by people who were more powerful than these militarists. It was created by bankers and corporate types who were just trying to solve their own political problems and structure things in a way that would work out for them. So different Wall Street types, old money, these were the people who basically created the plans that necessitated for wealth and industry to be spread in places like the West and Southwest and and gave rise to the American right and the military-industrial complex, an alliance between military and oil people. It was a huge boost to the American right in general. So Kennedy, because he supported third world nationalism, had angered all of those forces as well. And the only appeal that he really had was to the world. He was very popular, which is why after his assassination, he was mourned by people like Nasser, Khrushchev, Sukarno, Castro. Castro immediately understood what had happened. He said, this is terrible, everything's changed. This guy's obviously not a communist. This is the oligarchy that killed Kennedy because he was trying to change things. Because Kennedy was secretly communicating with Castro. The CIA knew this. For their own purposes, the military apparatus could have used that alone, the fact that Kennedy was trying to communicate through back channels. They could have used that to authorize assassinating him, perhaps on some sort of continuity of government level. We don't really know because obviously these things are very secret. But if they have the ability to execute CIA scientists like Frank Olson for posing a security risk, which they did in 1953, then why would that apparatus not be available if it was determined that the president was committing treason or that he was a risk to national security? Once you create these intelligence agencies and you give them all this secret power to kill and break laws with impunity, then you have to manage a way to handle that, and you have to handle every constituency, including the possibility that the president is unfit for office as determined by the people in charge of the military machine.
Hey, thanks for watching this report. There is so much more that I'd like to dive into, but unfortunately we can't do that here thanks to heavy censorship efforts from big tech. If you want to explore this topic further, you can deep dive into this and access the entire uncensored library of Unified TV linked below. A membership to Unified gives you unlimited access to hundreds of uncensored podcasts, investigative journalism pieces, documentaries, films, and content that was once available on major streaming services like Netflix, but is now banned from the internet. For just $14.99 a month, which is less than $1 a day, it's actually less than 50 cents a day, you get access to all of it. Your subscription also helps keep the platform running free from censorship and corporate influence. Please consider supporting us and enjoy all of our unfiltered, thought-provoking content in return.